Welcome, 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 welcome. How's everybody doing today? Sorry about the moving around, just trying to get us all situated here. Whoop, be careful. All right, there we go. Done yelling in your ear and I'm done making you motion sick. Hope that's okay. It is 10 minutes to 12 for those that are coming on the replay and don't want to be part of all the chitter chatter that happens in the beginning. You are Beastie 79 today. Wow. My AC has not been really, well, it's been on and off throughout the winter. Sorry, I'm still kind of getting things moved around. I'm really not feeling it today. You guys ever just not feel it? I enjoy the live streams, but I'm like, I gotta go live today. But then when I go live, I'm like, hey, we're going live today. How exciting is that? But I don't have everything set up yet because I'll show you what I was working on while waiting. Let me make sure I turn all the volumes down. There we go. Okay, so while I was waiting, you guys are going to see this on Whip It Wednesday anyways, but someone sent me 4 little butterfly blocks from like a disappearing 9 patch. So I put those together into this little thingy. Morning, everybody. Hello, hello. So I really love these colors. It's kind of almost a jewel tone. I got the 2 purple there and these 2 greeny there, and I didn't mix them up as much as I wanted to, but I'm not taking it apart. Hello, good morning. I'm just gonna have and leave it just like this. I was thinking that I'm gonna turn this into a little art quilt, a little mini wall hanging. So sometime coming up soon, you guys have been asking to do a little art project together, an art quilt with me. So it's not going to be like necessarily a tutorial, but I'll do a video plenty of time ahead of time. And I will Kokia. Marcia, where are you? Are you in the northern part of Florida or the southern? I don't recognize that name at all. Oh, Coco. Well, that makes more sense. I recognize Coco a little bit more. Isn't that like on the other coast? Sally, you made it. Woohoo! So I thought for those interested, we'll sit down and we'll work on an art quilt together. I'll get a video up plenty of time ahead of time so you guys can purchase beads, embroidery thread, or gather it up out of your supplies, little pieces of rickrack and lace and all of that stuff. And then we'll work on this together. It's a nice small one. I'm going to guess it's like 12 inches. Let me see. Yep, 12.5 inches. So I figured that's the good size to work on. We'll talk about it, but if you want to start gathering stuff, I was thinking that, yeah, Space Coast, you're way up on that area. Yeah. So now you guys are supposed to be getting different weather than us. All of these lows and highs are stalling out. We are getting so humid because all of those pressure systems are coming like to halfway through the state, Tampa, Lake Okeechobee, and they're just dying out. So all of the humid air is getting stuck down here with us. Bleh. Isn't that beautiful? That's why I thought it was almost jewel tony. So think about if you want to do a little small project, we're going to put some embroidery on it. We're going to put some beads on it. We'll add some lace and stuff like that. Find yourself fabric. You can just do one piece of fabric or you could piece it. This was a disappearing 9 patch as far as I could tell because it had 4 pieces that look like that. So, and they all have this in the corner. So that's definitely a disappearing 9 patch. So find some fabric, make yourself a little block. You can just take a piece of fabric here, 6.5 inches, and put a border around it. And that's, just find something fun that has a lot going on like this. That way you only have to add a little bit of embellishment and we can dip our toes in and we won't be going crazy trying to fill, like if it was all purple in the center, we'd have to make a design in there. So we're gonna start out this way because now the butterflies, I can do some embroidery around them. They've got the little shadow ones down here. I can add some bees to their little false eyes on the back of their tails. I can embroider on their antennas. I can do all kinds of things in something like this. So I was thinking that that would be a nice idea. So I'm thinking maybe sometime towards the end of, maybe the middle or end of May or into June, because I want everyone to have enough time to gather their fabric and also to gather their supplies, like their beads and their embroidery floss and all of that stuff. So that's what I worked on for part of the time. Like I said, I will have a big video coming out about that. And then I worked on my, some of you have been here for a while, you've seen, this was a honey bun from Mary Engelbright, and I was making log cabins. I want this to be a, what do I want this to be? Oh, kitchen curtain, duh. Yeah, Jody, I figured that'd be right up your alley, right? Doing some embellishment on a project, doing a little bit of work on it. And then that way, we can branch out into fancier things, because I still have this kit that I won. It's not 12 o'clock yet, so we can still chitter chatter. I still have this kit that I won that has all the fun embellishments in it, and I kind of know what I want to do, but I want to, I keep changing my mind. So I thought if I went ahead, hold on, I typed something a long time ago and never hit enter, so I'm just going to get rid of it. So I want to go ahead and do something. Let me see if I can show you what this is. This is a mess kit by, oh, I'm just going to bring it up really close so you can see it. And then she shows things like how to embellish the letter like that. So I thought it'd be really cool to do like an R for Robin and R for RsIslandCrafts, or just kind of figure out something like that. She has things in here. The fabrics definitely like aren't all me, but that doesn't mean I can't use them. But there's all kinds of little, is it still considered ephemera if it's not paper? I think that's only for paper crafters. But there's a bunch of little goodness in here. So I thought I want to get a little bit of comfort level of doing the butterflies first. And then that way I can just, I need to draw something out for that first anyway. Hello from Western Nebraska. Binding a wall hanging. Ah, yes. I thought today we would work with the Brothers sewing machine while we do our tote bags. I thought that might be a little bit more friendlier to a new beginning sewer. That way it's not like this big fancy machine that I have. I do have my little tray on, but we'll talk about all that after and stuff. But today we are going to be making tote bags. Did you see the picture? These are exactly the same ones I showed you before, but I went ahead and I put them inside out, or however, I just flipped them because they're reversible. And that way I had something different for the picture. So I'm like, ooh, fancy. So that's what we're gonna work on today. And we are going to use another kid-friendly fabric because I thought it was really nice for like little library totes or whatever. So I have my Sam-I-Am, Dr. Seuss there, and then this is all the S's for Dr. Seuss because Dr. Seuss has, what, 3 S's in it? And I really enjoyed having the 2 different handles, so that's what I have again. So my handles are not going to match, but they're going to match the fabric. That's where we're at. That's where we're starting today. Yeah, I thought the Sam-I-Am fabric was really kind of cute. And I thought with all the different alphabet and letters and stuff on it, it'd make a good little library tote bag. You have to excuse me, I'm very parched today. Let me move this over here away from the microphone. That'll be nice. Oh, we're getting there, we're getting there. Just another few minutes. We'll wait for everyone to start popping in. It's only 1 minute to noon, so I don't want to start before everyone gets here. So how many of you guys are sewing tote bags with me today, or are you guys just working on your own projects? Is it a drinking game? It's a, you know what? Normally my AC has been turning on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It turned on at 8 o'clock this morning. It is a humid day out. and this room is hot. Oh, as a librarian, yeah, you needed lots of bags. Thanks, Carol. I really do like those hexagon mats too. They're hiding behind you over here. So I'm adding this to the list of things that I want to do, but who knows when I'll get to it. Once I get a little more organized, I need to make a whole bunch of videos and get ahead again so that I can actually play with my fabric and have some fun. Yay, Becky approves. Okay, Haley is working on a crumb quilt. She's gonna do the tote later. Paula is just listening to us. That's great. So I think that's what a lot of y'all do, is you just kind of listen and just do your thing, and then when you have a moment you come back later. Because really these tote bags, if you're experienced, once you have these cut out, they're like 10-15 minutes. And I don't want to scare any of the new people away, so if you are sewing these, and I think you can really do this in under an hour. If this is like your very first sewing project, I think that within an hour, cutting it all out and everything like that, I think you'll be able to do that no problem. Jody, you're always cleaning something. Bootsy Sweet Tarts, love that name. Yeah, crumb blocks, after a while, they can just get a little bit, they can just get to you after a while. So I'm really thinking that I want to make a scrappy one with my scraps like this, and I think I'm going to maybe take one or two colors, maybe take a white or a light gray and have it be a thin one here. So then make a scrappy one like this, and that would be one quilt. Just make a whole bunch of them to go together for like a lap quilt. Because if you don't want to do too many Y seams of piecing it together, of having to put a Y seam here, just make these really big. Make these like 12, 15, 18 inches, so it's a really whole big scrap thing, and you won't have to put as many together. You're a messy girl, yeah. See now guys, I work, and then at the end of the day, I put up a video on my Patreon channel of a basic day for me, a day in the life of this crafty crazy lady and stuff. And at the end of the day, I have to have this whole area cleaned up. My table needs to be cleaned up, my projects. If I'm still working on something, I just stack everything nice and neat. Because when I come back in the morning and start working at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, I need to have a clean workspace. I don't want to have to clean and then start working. And then I thought to make a second one, I would do this and do colors that are sort of kind of solid. Like, okay, this one has a lot of bugs in it, but still yellow, green, blue, and do the same thing, but maybe put a black strip in there or something. Do something that's kind of blenders and semi-solid or something. A bunch of the little scraps like that, even with wider strips for that, and then make a lap quilt that way. So those are my hopes and dreams. Will I do it? Oh, probably not. It's just put it on my list. Newbie here, but a real oldie everywhere else. Just finished the patchwork cellmate for video hop coming up next week. A cellmate, is that like to a little pouch to hold your cell phone? Because if that is on my list. It's at the back of my head that I keep wanting to make a video for you guys to do that, and I just haven't gotten there. I want to put them in the shop. Yeah, Instagram, that's where I start my day and I end my day pretty much. Yes, okay. Yeah, I want to make cell phone cozies. I want to make little wallets or pouches or whatever for cell phones. All right, so I have a couple things. Today also, when we make these tote bags, I want to show you how to make for your, where's my bags? Because with these bags, as them being reversible, now because I made 2 different handles and one of each fabric, it works for me, right? But I want to have, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, Kathy. I want to show you guys how to do it so you have like the princess fabric on this side and then this fabric, so that the handles are actually reversible. So when you have the pink side, you'll see these handles, and when you have the other side, you'll see these. We're not going to do that today, but I do have quick examples right here to show you how to do that. So if anyone's got any other questions before we get started, we're going to start making some tote bags. I always think that we're not going to be here very long. Yeah, add that to the list. I also want to make the felted ones. I have all the supplies to do wet felting, and I just haven't had a moment to do it. I had all those videos done ahead of time at the beginning of the year, and then I got physically, like, with my neck, you guys have heard it. I don't like to keep bringing it up, but with my neck, if I overdo it, I get in a lot of pain and I can't function for like a week or two. So I did them things around the yard, some things in the house, I did some things with the kids, and then I was down for a couple weeks with my neck, and then the next thing I knew, I didn't have any more videos left over. But you gotta have reversible, because that way, you know, like you could put, for the trick-or-treat one, you could put Halloween on the inside and then something else on the outside. Maybe they are really into Power Rangers right now, but maybe not in 6 months. So if you put something like just a fun fabric like the butterflies or something on the other side, they can always reverse it. And then, okay, hold on, let me add that. You know, you guys know I always have to put things on a list. I have a blank sheet of paper, and I have an actual place where I write all these down, but just while we're talking, I chicken scratch them here. Cell phone, cozies. I have the basic idea of how to do it and stuff like that, I just haven't gotten to it. I have to test it out first. Thank you, Becky. I do. It's just sometimes it just sneaks up on me when I don't realize, or sometimes I might just sleep wrong because it's my neck. I could hurt myself while I'm sleeping at night and not realizing it. It's like people who have back issues. You know, you could sneeze or get out of the car and you'd be out of luck. Oh, Carol, I appreciate that, but you know what? This is like my only income. And if I don't post videos, YouTube kind of, the computer gets a little upset and it puts me down lower in the rankings, so I have to do it. In case of an emergency, I do have the ability to go back and maybe go back 2-3 years and re-upload an old one, and maybe do the thing where we chat while it's doing, what is it, a premiere, so that while it's replaying that we can chat in the comments together, or I can always repost. Yeah, see? Exactly, Jody, exactly. And I've already discussed it with my patrons that if something horrible happens and I really need a video right away, I have their permission to take one of their older videos and put it up one day. But I'm trying not to. So I was thinking about it today. If there's 4 Fridays in the month, so I do 4 tutorials on Friday. The Whip It Wednesdays don't count because that's just chatter. And then I do 2 live streams on Saturday. So that's 6 tutorials there. Possibly just a sew along on Saturday. And then over on Patreon, if there's 4 or 5 Sundays, they get 3 to 5 videos. Sometimes they get I do a quick version of whatever the live stream is, and sometimes I bring back an old one that they haven't seen before so that they can see. I love list. Yeah, right, I know, exactly. Who is looking? Yeah, we're doing totally, I want to dive into tote bags, so we're doing the very, very simplest possible one. I showed these on my Whip It Wednesday. There is just, so here is the outside with simple handles. There's no interfacing, there's no batting, there's no pockets, no zippers, no closures. We're making it reversible, so you can turn it the other way. The bottom is totally flat, so we're not doing the word that I can never remember. We're not going to do our little, help me out here, guys. Whatever, we're not doing that. We're not boxing our corners. There we go. So we're not going to do any of that. So we're going to start with this, and then we're going to work our way into the more complicated, as in adding more details to our tote bags. Yeah, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So you have one color here and one color there, and we're going to add a pocket, and then we're going to add a little simple snap closure or a button closure. Box ends, exactly, yep. So we're going to go ahead and do all of that stuff, but first I want to take it so that if there's anyone who's brand new at sewing and has never made a tote bag, if you've made quilts and never made a tote bag, you might be a little, oh, I've never made a bag, bags are so complicated. These are super simple. Trust me, you're going to be surprised. If you think they're complicated, you'd be like, whoa, that was really easy. So let's go ahead and get started after I get another drink. So you guys see what I'm drinking out of? One of my Christmas presents this past year from a good friend. Yep, you can fold these up. You can take these to the grocery store, because even though they don't have a big bottom to them, they're flat and they're not boxed, that doesn't mean you can't put something in them. I mean, I wouldn't carry like encyclopedias, but this is, it's got one of those heavy magnets in it. So you can put that in there, so you can use this to carry some, if you're just gonna go get some French bread and some, I wouldn't put a gallon of milk in it, but you can carry it. A gusset kind of, but it's more like the gussets are, you know, it changes it because you're boxing the corners and you're creating a gusset. So it's right up there, Kathy. So you're there, yes, but it depends, so. We're not talking about big bottoms today. So that way you can always put something in it. It just makes them pop out on their own. So it's not like you can only put books in it. You can put anything you want in it. I like to, you can like store, if you're gonna make a specific project, maybe you're gonna make a small baby quilt, you can store all of the fabric and stuff in it, and then you can hang it up on hooks on a curtain rod in your closet or up on a wall or somewhere. Hang these off the end of the kids' beds, and you can put little special things in it for them. But okay, chatter, chatter, chatter. Let's start sewing and we can chatter as we're going. All right, so I have my 2 outside pieces and my 2 lining pieces. If you guys checked out the dimensions for the stuff in the description box, I put it in the Whip It Wednesday and it's in today's. I am working on another of the larger bags. All of these bags are going to end up in the shop, so if anyone's interested, once I get a second to get pictures of them on a nice day, I'll put them all there. Yep, you can use them as trash bags. You can put like a Walmart plastic grocery bag inside of it and throw some trash in it. Maybe not liquidy stuff, but like tissues and papers and stuff. Or use it when you're cleaning out the car. Put it in the back with the kids so they can keep a coloring book. Well, maybe not crayons in the car because that's scary. But, okay, so you want to just make sure whatever size you're doing, someone had put the dimensions of a coloring book, and it's basically the size of a sheet of paper, the coloring book she had. Whatever size you want, you just want to make sure that all 4 pieces of your fabric are the same, so that your outer fabric and your lining are all the same. Keep the heat's following you, huh? Yeah, so just want to make sure all 4 pieces are the same. If you're just making a little one, maybe you just want to have just something a little small, or if you're going to be making something large for one of those big floor coloring books that you want to store your grandkids or your kids' giant coloring book and crayons in, tuck it behind the couch so it's easy to find, or under the couch. Because if you have a small place or you want to have more room for fabric or yarn, you need to hide the kids' stuff. So I have 4 of those. Now my handle, what I like to do with my handles is I like to, just to give them a little extra strength, I don't put any batting in this version. I don't put any stabilizer or interfacing or anything like that. I do the trick where you fold it in half. Then you fold both. I'll show you more when I iron it. Fold both in. Then we go like that. And then we're going to top stitch down both sides. So you're going to need 2 handles. And what I like to do for myself, if you're making this for your child, you can just kind of look. I cheated. I went to Etsy and I looked, nope, I went just online and I looked at different places to see how long they had handles and stuff for the kids' tote bags. And I just thought, well, that's a little bit short, so I added a couple inches. But what I do is I put a tape measure over my shoulder and I decide where I want it to land. So I just kind of do one of these thingies, and I bring the tape measure down and I meet it up to about where I want it to be. So if I want it right under my arm, or if I want it to maybe go down to my hip, and then whatever this measurement is, I like to add at least an inch to it. So you can test this out on yourself or your kids. We all come in all different shapes and sizes. Some of us are taller, some of us are shorter, some of us have a little extra fluffiness to us, and some of us are the type, like my grandmother would want to feed you all the time because you're skinny. But then again, my grandma wanted to feed everybody. She thought feeding people is love, and now you know why we're all kind of a little bit fluffy at my house. But that's what I do, is I measure from my shoulder down to C. Just add a little extra because I want to tuck it into the seam, and in case you have to straighten anything out or whatnot. So those are all my pieces. And what you do with this one is I want to show you if you want to have totally reversible handles. I just have a little one here. Now for those of you guys that are just starting out, you can do this with just very little tools. It's helpful to have hemostats, or they have all these specialized turning tools for turning tubes like this. You can look on Amazon for a tube turner or anywhere online and you can find them. Yeah, we all get a little extra fluffy every now and then, especially when we get older. But what I do is I take my long handle, it's 15 or 18 inches or whatnot. This one's right side up, and I take the reversible side. So as you can see, I have this for this bag just because I had the fabric scraps out, so why not? And we would take these two together. Now let me show you real quick. What you end up doing is I would go ahead and go, you can do just a 1/4 inch or you can do a little bit more. We're pretty much going to do 3/8 of an inch for the entire bag. So for this guy, you would, let me see where my machine's at. I haven't worked with this one very much, so it's all kind of new to me. I'm going to sew right sides together down one side. I think this one might be a little quieter than my regular one, or it might be a little noisier, I don't know. This is good practice for staying in a straight line and practicing your straight line stitching, which I didn't do very well because this is going to take too long and it's driving me crazy. I tend to get very impatient when the summer heat starts and everything. The heat makes me grumpy and I wanted to show you all this before we get started in the other one. Then I would take this and I'd give it a nice good press just to get all those stitches to go down. There are different tricks online on how to turn a tube. You'll be able to Google them, look them up on YouTube and stuff, or as I said, buy that little tube turner. But mine should be short enough that I can just put my fingers in. Turn this right side out. Now if you're really careful and you make sure everything is sitting really nice, then you can go ahead and press it. Obviously, I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing and being all nice and neat. Oh look, it ended up really good though. And the princess is right on there. So you'd have a handle. So here's one side and here's the other. Now with the handles, we cut ours at 4 inches wide because as I said, we're doing the thing where we fold it in, and that's going to give our handle extra strength because we have 4 layers. Now as you see, this one's a little wider. This comes out to be about 1 inch. So where you would cut this at 4 inches, I would cut each of these at 2.5 inches, or however you want, whatever you want your finished width to be. If you want your handle to be 3 inches wide, you're going to want to add your seam allowance to each side. So if we're doing 3/8, I would just go ahead and say 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch to each side. So if I wanted this to be 3 inches, I would probably cut it at 3.5, 3 3/4, 4 inches, just to give an estimate. It's not usually that I need to have these at exactly the same size. It's not like my shoulder. If I wanted to slide it into some weird thing or something, I don't know why you would ever need that. But then you can just go ahead and do some stitching down along the edge, and that would give you a totally reversible handle. The way we're doing it today, I'm just going to do one of each fabric for the handle. I kind of really, like I said, like that whole funkiness of it. The handle's a part I tend to forget about, so I want to go ahead and do that first. So I'm going to make sure you slide this down. I want you all to be able to see. Bum, bum, bum. Whoops, I went too far. There's a little red warning tape if you pull the iron out too far. There we go. Oh, that's good. Kathy, didn't you cut yours with the rotary cutter? Was that who did it? So I'm going to line up the edges, and I'm going to put them wrong sides together so that I can see the good fabric on each side. I'm going to keep them lined up the best I can. Just give it a nice little press. And that's going to give me my center seam. I don't want to block y'all with the iron. I don't want to burn myself. Oh yeah, so I'm glad it's feeling better, because I remember the old pull tabs from the soda and the beer cans, and those metal cuts are really terrible. And I'm telling you that the rotary cutter cut is worse than having a knife cut. And I think it has something to do with, first of all, how sharp it is and the type of metal that it is. It just really burns. So now I know where my center line is. I can go ahead and fold the bottom half up or the top half down, however you want to do it. Give that a nice press. This is going to give me the strength I want in my handle for this small project without having to add anything extra to it. The 4 layers is going to be perfectly fine for just a little bit of groceries or for the library books and coloring books and stuff. I'm always thinking of, like, mostly for like the younger kids that they're just going to get a few books. If you're going to go as a family and get, like, my library allows me to get 50 books, I believe, or 52 books, so you can get a whole year's worth if you read 1 book a week or whatever. But kids always like to just put 1 or 2 books in it themselves. So I'm going to fold it back in half. I'm going to line up those top folded edges there. Just give it a nice press. So there's one. I thought someone was saying they were 36 years old, and I saw it was Jody, and I'm like, uh-huh. Are you 36 and holding? My grandmother was 29 until I turned 29 as the youngest, at that time, the younger grandchild. And it was like, well, you know what? I guess I can't be 29 and holding anymore if Robin's already 30. I'm like, yeah. I shouldn't say I was the youngest, because I do have 2 younger sisters. I'm the youngest from one set of the family. Don't be. No, you've had a rough week. I'm not going to be mean to you. I was like, what? She must be joking. I thought it was someone's birthday. I was say, happy birthday, happy birthday. Like, you know, last week was your birthday, you were 36. Now fold the other one into the center. Now, if you guys worked on the little scrap fabric basket that we made, like the Easter baskets and stuff, really, we're making the same exact thing today. We're just not putting any batting in, and we're not boxing the corners. He's catching up. Because are you 39 and holding? Because, you know, we don't age. The kids get older that we don't. My daughter Miranda is turning 30 next month also. You know, it's weird because when Justin turned 30 a couple years back, and I was like, okay, Justin's 30, no big deal. He's the oldest. He's supposed to turn 30. Now Miranda, she's turning 30. I still have Robbie, but Miranda was the baby for like 8 years. So now it feels like, well, the baby's turning 30, so that's really making me feel, I don't feel old, but I feel like I've been alive for a long time. Oh, birthday cake for breakfast. Ay, guys, you're all crazy. So when Robbie turns 30, because we're 30 years apart, I'll be 60, and I'll be like, whoa. I'll really feel old then. All right, so what we're going to do with our handles, now anytime you're working on something like this, you can take your sewing machine. If you have, let's say you're just one of those people, you've been making tote bags forever and you're just kind of bored. So you can take your fancy stitches and play with them and make some little fancy designs down here. You can embroider a little word, you know, something about libraries and knowledge and books and adventure or whatever. But we're going to go really simple, and we are just going to take it, can never say how much you guys can really see. And we're going to stitch about 1/8 of an inch or even 1/4 of an inch, because remember, all of this is folded in. So if top stitching 1/8 of an inch is too hard for you as a beginner, or your machine doesn't like it, or for whatever reason you want to just stitch somewhere along here 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, and we're going to do it on this side. Now some people only do it on the folded side, but then you just have, you're lopsided. You have stitching down there and nothing here. Of course, you only need it on the folded side, but I mean, I like to have it balanced on the other side. When we get to the quilted tote bags, we're going to do something even more with our handles, but for now, we're just going to put 2 lines of stitching. As I have the basic machine, it still has 59 different stitches, so I could pick something fun, but I'm going to be boring, and I'm just going to stitch. I like to stitch on this open side first. That way I know it's closed up. I have it all pressed, so I know I'm basically even, but if I get a little bit off, and I want to make sure that this, as I'm stitching, I want to make sure that these 2 edges stay even as best as I can, and then I can always give it a nice press, and then if I have to adjust over here. If I stitched on the fold line, when I was first doing these handles and tote bags, I'd stitch on the fold line first, but then sometimes this would get a little off kilter, and I could see one of the bottom sticking out or something. So then I just started doing it from this open side first, and that way it kind of took care of all that problem. Yeah, just don't look in the mirror. I tell you, Jody, those older ladies, especially if they've been doing it for a while, they get good. I found, let me know if you want me to put a link down below, but I found an exercise group on YouTube, and it's meant for the older women, like around age 70 and something. Because of my neck, I can't do a lot of things. I can't do yoga, I can't do different stretches. I have to go easy, low impact. So I started doing some of their exercises. They do, like, you can walk in the house. So I walk right here in the morning before I start working. I do some stretching and some cardio stuff to get my heart rate going. And it's 10 minutes to a half an hour, and I've been doing it for a couple weeks. And other than the last few days where I've just had acid reflux issues and have felt miserable, it's given me so much energy. So if I keep this up and I keep getting all this energy, you guys better watch out, because Whip It Wednesdays are going to get a lot longer, because I'm going to have a lot more to talk about. So I'm just going to stitch down there. I have my extra piece of fabric that I've talked about, so if you haven't seen these before, I put this so as I'm stitching through the machine, it's already started stitching, because sometimes it will suck your little piece of fabric down into the hole, or you'll get some weird thing going, and this is like forward momentum. Some people like to put little 2.5-inch squares. Check out Bonnie Hunter's Leader and Ender. Everyone calls it something different. So I am just going to start on this. See, you get going a little slow and it just holds it nicely. And then when I'm done sewing, or now, I can just reach over and clip that piece out, and I can use it again. So when I get to the end of a project, I can put it through. It works out really good when I'm doing stuff like this, and I want to go over, like if I'm doing a whole bunch of squares and I want to go over and stop and iron them all, then I could put that piece of fabric in there, and I'm not wasting thread. Because when you start and stop, I think I read somewhere that when you do a quilt, that you can waste enough. You need the link? Okay. You can waste enough thread for a whole spool of thread at the end of a quilt if you don't do something like the leaders and enders and you keep cutting your thread every time. If you don't do the chain sewing where you do one block after another. So this is going to save on your thread, so if you want to be a little conscious of that, because a spool of thread, if you're using the really fancy expensive stuff, all right, Bootsy, you can always catch the replay later if you'd like. Good luck with your chores. Because a very fancy spool, I mean, if you're buying the ones, I don't even know what they cost anymore at Walmart, but I used to be able to get them for 99 cents or on clearance for $1. But I know a spool of the fancier threads can get quite expensive. And if you're really concerned about your lines being perfectly straight, you can always get one of the sewing marking tools and you can mark a straight line with your ruler and just sew on the line. I'm using white thread on a white handle, so if I get a little oopsie, then it's okay, I get a little oopsie. I can tell when I'm not feeling good because I tend to make more mistakes. So now I'm chain piecing. I still have this one, it's still attached. I have my needle in the down position. I can set my machine so it automatically stops. Otherwise, just pull your little handle and get it down. So then I can take my next handle and I can put it right in. I don't have to worry about any of the extra thread or starting over or putting my little spider piece of fabric with all the little threads hanging. I had to get some new ones. I have the other ones with my Juki. And the ends of these are going to either be trimmed off or go inside your bag, so they're not going to be seen the way we're doing this bag. I don't want to do like tote bags every week, but we can incorporate so many different techniques into a tote bag. Maybe I'll do them, I don't know, once or twice a month or something. You guys let me know how often you want to do tote bags. Because in reality, I just might be here, but I'm the entertainment. It's really up to what you guys want to see. There's no sense in me making a video. Oh, exactly, Becky. But you know, sometimes people, if this is the very first time they've used their sewing machine, and they're really kind of worried about it, and they want it to be perfect, for some of those, it's really good because we get I see a lot of new people, beginner sewer. They don't see it today, but they might come in later on, 6 months later, and they're like, oh, Robin, thank you so much for all the tips for the beginners and stuff. You could put some people put like Post-it notes there, and I know there's a little magnetic tool you could put there. I just line it up with the mark on my presser foot, and if it's straight, great, and if it's not, whatever. But it takes a while for some people to get comfortable enough to say, it's okay if I make a mistake and it's not perfect. And then other people, it's really important for them for everything to be exactly perfect and the same. Yeah, it's a grocery bag, Carol. There's a tuck away, fold away grocery bag. Sometimes you can put it in a pocket, and other times you can just like roll it up and put like an elastic band on it. So I cut my other strap off, and I'm just going to flip it over and then sew down the other side. When I first started sewing, I had the hardest time with this. I kept like veering off, and then I learned I put my thumb down on it here. I guide it with this hand, and I just let my thumb just barely touch it, so it kind of keeps it from jumping around. So it just kind of holds it, and then I put my finger, my pointer along this edge, and it just helps guide it for some reason for me. And they say don't watch the needle, watch in front of the needle. So you want to watch your fabric going in. You don't want to watch your needle going up and down. You need a sweet little purse for 4- and 5-year-old girls. It depends on, do you want to just have handles or long handles like a tote bag, or short handles? Because you can just make this smaller. You can always add some, if you want to put your quilting and stuff like that in it. Oh, I still have one more handle to do. Darn it. Also, if your sewing machine has a speed on it, you can slow it down. Or realize that it's in the middle and slide it forward so you can go faster. I was wondering why it was so quiet and so slow. There we go. Jet engine. That goes pretty quick for this little machine. Yeah, stack of Post-it notes. Some people will put a credit card and use blue tape to hold it down, or a couple of old, you know, those cards that always come in the mail or you get for the stores and stuff like that. Oh, you want a crossbody bag. Let me write that down. If you can't wait for me to finally get around to it, you can, I've seen them. Basically, Lisa, go ahead and make this bag. And then if you know how, you can go ahead and box the corners if you want it quilted or not. And then just put one handle. You can put a handle for your handle here on each spot here and just make it long enough to go crossbody. That's all you really have to do. So you're talking 4 or 5 years old. So yeah, you can, depending what they're going to put in it, then you can always add a little bit of, they have the magnetic snaps or a regular snap. You could do something like put Velcro in there for the little kids like that, because it's not like they're putting their wallet with their identification and their credit cards and all that in it. I think a little piece of Velcro in there would be perfect for them. So what I'm going to do now is, I always forget to do this, I'm going to remember today, is I like to sew my handles down now before I put the bag together. Need my little mat out for this. I'm going to take one piece of any, whatever you're going to consider. I don't think it really matters if it's in the lining, or if, you know, if you're using the outside fabric, the lining fabric. This is reversible. If it weren't reversible, I just put it on the outside fabric just because. Just seems appropriate. So I have my fabric right side up. I'm going to give my halfway mark. Some people say you can put it 2 inches in from the edges, but then it all depends. You're welcome. It all depends on how big your bag is, right? So I find my center point. I'm going to line my bag up on a line, because if you've been here for a while, you know I like to have it a 1/4 of an inch going above. I like that little bit extra tucked into my seams and stuff like that. That's what I did before when I made them for a couple little girls. I just did something simple like that. They don't need anything super fancy. They just, it's all about the fabric to them. So I have my center lined up here. You could always just figure it out. Like I've got 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch on each side, whatever. So I'm just going to line it up there. Let me do this one first. Some people like to do 2 inches off of the center or 2 inches in. It's a different number for me here. Sometimes it's just 1.5 inches. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to count 1, 2. So then I'm going to put my handle in the 3rd square. So let me do, let's see, 2. We're going to lose about that much. I'm going to put mine 2.5 inches off the center. And I'm going to make it stick up 1/4 of an inch so that it gets into the extra stitching we're going to do. I put some more stitching in mine and I want it to hold that handle down. So I'm going to put a pin. I'm going to put 2 pins just so that the handle doesn't get all cattywomper on me. I've been having trouble with the clips with the handles getting twisted. And it frustrates me. Hi, Sonia. It's okay. We won't, my grandmother always said 50 lashes with a wet noodle. We won't do that to you. So I went 2.5 inches off the center. Now I'm going to take this, I'm going to put my hand down here, and I'm going to bring this end around, and I'm going to make sure that I don't have any twists in it. Now if you're using the double-sided one, if you're doing this, you'll definitely see if you have a twist. But if your fabric is all the same, you just want to be careful. Keep an eye on it. Now of course you're going to have the little handle, the bend of it. So you have to keep an eye on that. And I'm going to do 2.5. I'm going to bring it up 1/4 of an inch. I just like to do it on my cutting mat here because it helps me see all those numbers. Pins, clips. I've seen this one lady that I watch make bags, she uses those long metal clips that women put in for the hair, like the whole rollers and stuff like that. So I'm going to double check to make sure there's no twists in it. So there's my first one. Now I want my second one to match exactly. Oh, I got lucky. Make sure your fabric is right side up. I could have had my handle on the bottom of the bag and my bag would have been upside down. I got lucky. Again, I'm just going to find my halfway. Make a little finger crease. So now I'm going to remember, okay, so first of all, I'm going to look and see, it's not going to really matter. Maybe if I'm very particular and I want to have this on the outside to match this or something like that. Because when you put your handle on, when you sew it on, it's going to flip up like this. So whatever part you're looking at is going to be on the wrong side of the bag. So if you want this letter M, you want to make sure that it's touching the bag. So I did 2.5. Put it up that 1/4 inch. And after I put these on, I want to make sure they match up to my other one that I already did. Two and a half. Wonder if I put the other one at 2 inches. That's why I'm going to check. Now, some people like to just leave these pins in and they sew their bag all together like this. I like to do a little stay stitching to make sure that I don't have to deal with the pins because I stab myself with pins all the time. So I'm going to put these two together and I'm going to match up the two ends, and I'm just going to make sure that my handles are in the same spot. You can also do it like this. Just line up the ends and make sure that your handles are in the same area so that everything looks good. If you're off maybe 1/4 inch, it's not too bad if you find out later, but if you can change it now and adjust it, you are going to have that extra bit. Yeah, see, I thought mine was a little bit off, but it's just the way it is. So then, move this out of the way. Put it somewhere where it won't fall over and scare me in 5 minutes. Okay. Now I want to... Haley, I'm putting my bag's reversible, so it's not going to really matter which one you do. If my bag wasn't reversible, I usually put it on the outside, just because handles are on the outside, so you put it on the outside. This handle is going to end up in the middle, so it's really not going to matter because your handle's coming in between those two pieces of fabric, right? So when you sew it, you're not going to know if it's in the front or the outside. Ooh, cabbage rolls. Yum. Now, if you're experienced and you've been baking bags, you've been doing all that stuff, you can go ahead and lengthen your stitch. But I'm just going to use my regular... Oh, I forgot. So sorry, guys. I'm stitching with my 2.0 stitch length as usual. You're welcome. When we do other bags and I do the quilted ones, I definitely pay attention and I want to have it in a certain spot. But for these, I don't see where it matters at all. So I'm going to put a little stitch, and we're going to be doing a 3/8 inch seam allowance and stuff like that. So I want to go 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch, just really barely touching it and tacking it in. You just want it to hold your handle so that when we sew it all together, we don't have to worry about things moving and the pins stabbing us, forgetting the pins are in there when we sew things together. So I just go ahead a couple stitches before and a couple stitches after. I will show you what it looks like after I sew both of them. I haven't cut my thread, but you can. I have the auto thread cutter on my Juki, so I usually cut it. This one, I don't think it has that. No, I have to cut it on the side, so I just go ahead and pull it. I'll trim that in a minute. I remember they say you're not supposed to sew over your pins. It could shoot you in the eye, could damage your needle, or it could set your timing off. So if you can avoid it, do your best not to sew through your pins. Now, if you're an experienced sewer and you're gonna do whatever you want, you know, sew through your pins, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I'm concerned for you and I don't want you to have, you know, shoot your eye out or anything, but for those that are new and you haven't gotten into that habit yet, it's a really good idea not to sew over your pins. So I'm going to take this one, I'm going to do the same thing, make sure it's kind of, this top part is going nice and straight. Again, just a little bit, just enough to hold it on. I have a video where I showed you how to make a pin cushion that goes right here, and that would be a really good idea right now. So if you want, you can go ahead and cut it and then start again, totally up to you. After having the conversation about wasting thread, now I'm wasting thread, but hey, you gotta save where you can and make life easier wherever you can. And since this is just a tacking stitch, I'm not worried about back stitching or anything like that because it's all going to be tucked inside the bag and taken care of. Make sure I don't put the sewing machine off the table. Okay, so here is one piece of fabric and here is the other. So what we want to do is for our outer fabric and our lining, we want to take it so that we have right sides together. Oh, and with the measurements, I can kind of see how this one is, but be careful if you don't, like the smaller one, I think the measurements are really close. If you want it nice and tall, make sure you have it orientated in the right direction. It's easier to change now, even if you put the handles on in the wrong spot, than if you have to come back later. So I have one piece of my, we're going to call this a lining fabric, facing up, making sure that this is the top. So I want to make sure that I have it orientated. So like the alphabet ones, I want to make sure they're in the right direction. And I want to take my other piece and I want to make sure they're both the same size. Of course, you don't want to do it this way. So if your measurements are like 11 by 12, you want to make sure you have them in the right direction. Now, if you're new to all of this and this is the first time sewing, you might want to put some pins in it. Now, pins are, oh, I wanted to show you the handles real quick before we get going. Let me show you. Okay, you see how it just barely, I have barely 1/8 of an inch. It's just enough to hold it in so that, like I said, I don't have to worry about pins. Some people put pins going in, they'll take it from the outside and they'll put a pin in this way, right? Some people, as you're sewing in this direction, they like to put the pins in the seam allowance going this way. And then other people, like if you're doing a 3/8 inch seam allowance, they like to come into here and put it like that. Now, since we are just stitching a bag and we're not doing something super duper fancy like a quilt block where everything has to be exactly perfect, if you want to go ahead and put your pins here so that as you're sewing you don't have to move them out of the way, I still recommend that, well, some people say you can also go from left to right and then right to left. So as you're sewing, you can take your left hand, because your right hand is always over into that part of the sewing machine right here. You don't want to bump it or whatever, so they'll do it that way. So however you want to pin it, and if you just want to be crazy like most of us, this fabric generally holds itself together. There's nothing to match up. I could just put something in the 4 corners if I want, or just down here to hold them. I'm just going to go ahead and sew as is. I've gotten enough practice of going pretty well straight. Now watch something crazy will happen, but we'll see. So again, as I said, I'm going to do a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and that's just going to, it's just like a general one for making bags. We only have a couple pieces of fabric, so you could just go with a 1/4 inch if you want, because with the 3/8 inch, we're going to go ahead and trim it up a little bit. But for a new person, just pick a seam allowance that you're comfortable with and stick with it for both parts of your bag. Now, when we first start out, We have not changed our stitch length. We're going to keep it the same all the way through. I want to back stitch when I get going, because so when we're flipping the bag in and out, this will become a weak point, and we don't want to have any of the threads pop out. We are stitching down the side, across the bottom, and back up, leaving the top open. We are doing it the same for both pieces. We are not leaving any holes in the lining or anything for turning it. We're going to turn it through the top. That way it becomes reversible and we don't have anything weird. You don't want to have a seam where you stitched it together on the outside of your bag when you make it reversible. If your threads, you can hold the threads so that this part doesn't get sucked in if you don't have your little leader ender situation going. Sometimes I hold on to the thread, get going, 3, 4, 5 stitches, and then let me find the back stitch on this machine. There we go. And then, oh, it's so slow. And then back stitch. Okay, everybody's good. This machine's so light that it's moving. If your machine moves a lot, I've heard some people put those shelf liners and the things you put underneath your rug to keep it from sliding on the floor. Just be careful, because if you have a really nice wooden table, some of them might leave some type of marks. So maybe test it out, or if you already know it works good, you can go ahead and use that. Or just, I just do like I do and just shift it back when you have to. Now I'm going to stop. Whatever my seam allowance is, 3/8 inch from the end. You can, if you can't figure out where it is, you can go all the way off the end and then put your needle up, turn your bag, might have to pull a little bit of the thread out, and then start again from the edge. It's going to work out the same fine that way, or when you get to the end, you can pivot 3/8 inch from the end. A lot of the feet will have a mark on it somewhere so you can see. It's really hard to show in a video where that mark is. So I'm going to get, so when it looks like it's about 3/8 inch for me, I'm going to lift my presser foot with my needle down and pivot. I have a little bit extra fabric on the side of my foot, so I'll go back. Whoops, take too many stitches. And then when I pivot again, it's lined up right on the side of my foot where I need it to be. I think if you buy a new sewing machine and you need to get used to it, projects like this are great because you can feel how it works and get all the little kinks out and find out all the little things about it. I go ahead and leave this one in. You can take it out, you can put a little piece of fabric in, whatever, and then I start the next one because I had to leave that top opening done. Remember, we only sewed on 3 sides. Make sure your handles are at the top so that you are starting at this top, whether, I guess it would always have to be on the top right side, so you start up there. Because otherwise you'd be sewing here and you'd have all of the bag on there. You want the excess bag on the outside of your machine so it's not all jammed up inside there. I'm going to do the same thing. Make sure it stays lined up if you don't have it pinned. I'm always just a little short. Everything's lined up. You have to stop and readjust it. Keep your handles out of the way. Sometimes if they really get into much of the way, you can put them inside the bag and either clip them or pin them to the fabric there. Just make sure you don't do anything weird. Let me cut my other bag off. Make sure you don't do anything weird to distort your bag so that you can still sew evenly down the side. Mine are just hanging out the end because they're going to stay out of my way that way. I have mine on a mat so I can slide it easily across the table to show you guys stuff, but it is definitely getting in my way, making my machine slide. I had to move my drink because Miss Mocha's going to come sit up there and knock it over. Okay. Yeah, we're all going over to Beverly's for cabbage rolls. Let me move these out of the way. Now, just out of habit, I do like to give these seams a nice little press just to set the seams. I mean, we do it with our quilting, so why not do it here too? It just means setting the seams just means putting your hot, steamy, with or without steam iron on it. And it's going to make your stitches settle down and relax into the fabric so they're not sticking up in all kinds of funky, bulky stuff. This one doesn't have handles, so it's easier. Now mine, of course, because I didn't pay attention and my machine was sliding everywhere, you see mine is sticking out just a little bit there. It's not perfectly even. That's really like 1/8 of an inch or a little bit less than that. I'm not going to worry about it. If your bag gets really out of kilter and stuff, you can always trim it. So you can, not with the handles because your handles are sewn on, so be careful with that part. But if my lining is a little off, I can always take it and use scissors if you have scissors, because not everyone does quilting, so they don't have all these fancy tools. But you can go ahead and just line your ruler up and then trim off that excess. I don't worry about it because it's going to be tucked in and everything's going to be sewn together. Now, normally with just 2 pieces of fabrics, I would have sewn it just 1/4 of an inch. Do I leave? No, Kathy, we're going to do it all through the top. I sewed all 3 sides. I left the top open. We're going to put a bag inside a bag, and we're going to sew it around here and leave a little opening and turn it through there. This way it's reversible, because if I did it through the lining, so if I have this bag here, right, this is technically the way I made it would be the lining. No, wait, this is it, right? So here's my outside of my bag. I sewed around and everything's great. So if I left a little bit of a hole in my lining to turn it, my bag wouldn't be reversible. Otherwise, I mean, it's not too big of a deal, and you could ladder stitch it, but you would see where I turned it and I stitched it right there. So we're going to do it through the top. It's just as easy to do it through the top. It just takes a little bit of a finesse to it, but not too bad. So with these 2 just simple pieces of fabric, I would have sewn it 1/4 of an inch, but I wanted to show a new person that if they want to and they just go at 3/8, you can always line up a ruler and cut off a little extra so it's down to about 1/4 of an inch. That's going to get the bulk out of it. So I can do that just kind of line it up with my stitching. Just take off, make sure I don't sew through my stitching line, cut through my stitching line, and I can do that. And if you're not a quilter and you don't have that, no batting at all. I can always just take my scissors and trim off the extra here with a pair of scissors that's actually sharp. Get my good scissors out. So you can always just trim a little extra off just to get it out of the bulks of the seam so you don't have like little lumpy bits down in your seam. And as usual, we're going to trim our corners also about 1/8 of an inch from where the stitching is. It just reduces that bit in the corner. And this one's been turned inside out a bunch of times, but it's you don't have a whole bunch of extra fabric right there. So when we turn it out, we get a nice crisp corner. So I'm going to do that on these 2 bottom corners on this bag and on the bottom corners of this bag. Be careful if you're doing any type of cutting that you don't hit your handles. Again, I have a lot of extra here that I just want to get out. Since I did it at the 2.0 stitch length, it's going to be a nice tight sewing line. So that's going to be helpful. No batting, no interfacing, no fusible fleece. All of those things we'll use in a future bag. This is one of those simple ones where your kid's like, Mommy, Mommy, Daddy, Daddy, I want this, Grandma, Grandpa, whatever. They're like, I need a bag for the library. It's October 31st at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you don't have a trick-or-treat bag. You can just quickly whip one of these up, give one for the little ones so that they can use it to carry their stuffed animals or their dolls and whatnot. There's that. Let me put my ruler up. I hang my long ruler on the wall. I've been hanging it on the wall for as long as I've been doing quilting. Okay, so now we're going to put our bags together. This point, it really doesn't matter. I used to get confused. Do you put the bag in the lining or the lining in the bag? It doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that there's right sides facing. So one of your bags, I'm going to turn the one with the handles, and I'm going to put it right sides out. And my lining, I'm going to leave wrong side out so that I'm looking at the back of the fabric and not the good side. See, there's the good side. What I want to do is I want to take the bag, my outside bag, and put it in my lining so that the right sides are going to touch, and I'll show you that in a second. Make sure my handles are tucked down in there. You don't want them sticking out. So when I sloppily put my bags together, I'll make it neat in a second. I just want to show y'all. So that I have, here's my outer fabric. And when you look at it like this, right sides are touching. Now it doesn't matter, you could have done it this way out so that you put your lining inside your outside fabric. We still have the same situation. We peek inside, we have our right sides together. Because you have to have them touching so that when we turn them back out, you can see the right sides of both of the bags. So like I said, it doesn't matter one way or the other, it's all gonna work. I go to my side seams and I take the 2 side seams and I match them up. Now my seam allowance is pretty small, so it's not going to really matter, but I usually push one to one direction and on the other side I do it the other way. Vice versa, it doesn't matter which one goes where. And that's, again, going to take the bulk out. So if you have a machine that's really temperamental and doesn't like thick fabrics, that way you're dispersing all that bulk of the seams and you don't have the extra. I'm going to come over to this side and I'm going to do the same thing. Put one way, one the other, line up the tops. You can use pins. Actually, I probably should use pins. I haven't used this machine to do something like this yet, I don't think. Now you can find the halfway point of both of them, but I just put my fingers in it like this, and I give them a nice little gentle tug. And I can, if I lay it down like this, I can just see right there is the center point. Put that one there, and then do it again. I put one between the handle and the outside. And I like to, you can put in as many as you want. You can put in 4, or you can put in 14. We're just gonna move and put a bunch of pins or clips just to hold it all. And on this one side, put in as much as you want. When we get to the other side, we need to leave, first, did you see there's no handles here? The handles are tucked down in between the two fabrics. They're all nice and neat and tucked in there. On this side, I'm gonna find that center point again. I'm gonna put a clip there, but here's where you have to decide. If you're really good at sewing and turning it out and then sewing that seam up so it's nice and level and flat and everything looks pretty, you can put it right between the two handles. That gives you plenty of room to get your hand in and out. This is a smaller bag. It doesn't take a lot of room to turn it right side out. So what you can do is you can do your opening between your handle and the seam. So that's going to be on the side. So when we're carrying it and stuff, yes, right here, it's going to be right there on the front, but if you start putting things in it, it'll move it to the side a little. But right in the center, you're gonna kind of like, your eye's gonna go right there. So if you have a little dip, you're gonna see it. If you have a little dip over here, maybe it won't be as noticeable. What some people like to do is if they're putting all of their pins in straight up and down this way, when they get to this point, they'll either put 2 pins here and 2 pins there, or they'll put their pins sideways so that they know that that's the spot to go. I'm just gonna start there so I'll remember, hopefully. Make sure your handle, okay, see my handle was a little bit like flopped over this way. You wanna make sure that the handle, because it's only sewn up on that one little spot, so you wanna make sure your handle is nice and level up there. So pop it up. Mine came a little unsewn, so I'll just put a little clippy on it. Now I know some people have different sewing machines, and not everyone's gonna have a, is it called a free arm, where you can sew cuffs and pants and stuff like that? So not everybody has that, so I'm gonna show you 2 different ways to sew this. Mine has the bed on it, so I'm going to take this off. It normally has this on it. So it normally sits like this. Now some machines you can't take this off, so this is like flat down to the ground. You don't have like freedom to move around. Some machines you just take this part off and you'll have freedom to move around. And what you can do is you can put this in like this. So I have the top part I'm sewing on top, and then I have this part slid underneath, and that allows me to move this round and round and round as I'm sewing. Not every machine has that. So if your machine doesn't have a free arm and you can't sew like cuffs and sleeves and stuff like that on it, what you have to do then is, here's the top of the bag. I have to take the opposite side and slide it underneath my machine so that this part's here, and I'm sewing on the inside of my bag. And then as I'm sewing, I'll just be taking it like this again and spinning it round and round. But I'm lucky and this machine has a free arm, so I'm going to take advantage of it. Once I figure out where to put my wool mat. There we go. Is everybody good? All right. You need to pull your pins out as you get to them so that you are not sewing over them. I'm going to start, since my hole is going to be right here, so I'm going to start right after my hole. And again, I'm going to back stitch just because we're going to be pulling the bag through there and it looks a little violent. So I don't want to pop the stitches out there either. So I'm going to start, I don't know, like 5 stitches before the handle. Take a couple stitches, back stitch, you have a free arm. It just makes it so much easier to have a free arm. If you're new to this, 1/4 inch is sometimes hard to line up your top and bottom piece. So go ahead and go with your 3/8 inch again and go around. You're gonna lose, what, a little extra bit at the top, so if someone else's bag might be a smidge taller than yours, it's a lot easier than getting offline and having to come back and re-sew it and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna sew along, but for me, I'm keeping the top of the bag, both pieces lined up along the side of my presser foot. I don't care what that seam allowance is called. It's 3/8 by the way. I'm just gonna go ahead and use it all the way through. So I don't even need to know what it is. I just need to know that I'm always lining it up with the top of my presser foot, the edge. If you think you're gonna, yeah, Becky, when I use my Juki, I have to put pins in because there's an extra little leg that comes out underneath and it always gets caught, so I have to put pins in. That's why I checked this one out first. I was going to put pins in it, but nope, I can use clips on this guy. If you're going to carry like a dictionary in this, some people when they get to the handle, they'll stitch across the handle while we're doing it now and back stitch again. I'm going to stitch over it now. And then I'm going to stitch over it 2 more times in the end, so I'm not going to worry about it for this bag here. If I was making a big heavy duty one, I would. So I'm just going to stitch all the way around and around, leaving that one opening 2 to 3 inches. You definitely don't want to leave it where the handle is, so you either leave it in the center between the 2 handles or between the handle and the edge. Depending on the size of your bag, you might not have an option. I think some people aren't very good at turning it and getting it nice and level, and that's why they'll do the lining. But I know some people don't like to have, they don't like to see the stitching on the lining, so you either have to hand stitch it with a ladder stitch, because I sew mine with the sewing machine, but some people don't like the way that looks. Bye, Kathy. We're getting close to being done, maybe another 15 minutes. We'll catch you on the replay. If you get sewing like a maniac and you sew the whole entire thing all the way around, you just have to come back with your little seam ripper and rip out a few stitches so that you can turn your bag. Some people like to do that because it automatically gives them a line to fold their fabric on. But I don't like using the seam ripper if I can avoid it. Okay, so I'm going to come past my little seam on the edge. My Juki, the back stitch is in the same place on this one as the needle up is, and I keep trying to hit the wrong button. Okay, we have stitched, we as in, you know, all of us together. I have my opening right here. Just a little one, but it's not a big bag. And then I've stitched. Now, if it was really thick, I'd have to leave it there. I do not worry about pressing the stitches on this one because I am going to top stitch around it twice around the top. I usually just do it once before, but I really like the way it looks with 2 lines of stitching. Let me show you on the Halloween one, you can see it better. Some people normally just top stitch around it once, but I really like that look of 2 lines of top stitching. It's like fancier. So I just put my hand in there, put my fingers down. You can use hemostats or whatever. Just grab a chunk of it and start slowly. I'm pulling this up while pulling this down. I made my hole nice and small So it takes a little bit more work to get it out, especially when you have the handles and stuff. Eventually, since everything's connected at the top, the other part will start coming out. Again, leave your hole a little bit larger and it won't be too much struggle. I don't mind. I'm usually watching YouTube, listening to an audiobook, watching TV shows or something while I'm sewing. Oh, what happened to Juki? No, I definitely wanted to show a beginner sewer what this little machine looks like. Because sometimes the big Juki, people are like, I can't sew because I don't have a big fancy machine like you do. And really, it doesn't have anything to do with the machine. It has to do with, I mean, it does a little bit, of course. But I wanted everyone to see that you can sew on one of these little small projects on a little machine like this, and that it's okay. The Juki's just taking a break. This machine is the one that's going to be my main machine while the Juki goes into the spa. I'm giving it a little bit more time before I take it in. I have a few big bills coming up I want to take care of first before I go and take her into the shop, just because you never really know if there's anything wrong with it, and you figure the maintenance is like $100 to $150, but you never really know if they're going to find something wrong with it, right? But before I close up my hole, going to take something, whether it's my point turner or my nice rounded tip crochet hook, and I'm going to go down and I'm just going to poke out my corner here just so it looks good. This is my outside, and granted it's going to be reversible, so I'm also going to, afterwards, I'll worry about the other one, and I'll show you different ways to pull that out. I think the Juki's also really good for like quilting and stuff, and I have some quilts I want to do. So after it gave me little fits with that orange pumpkin fabric, I was a little worried that I might have done something, or it needs, because it needs to be, go to the spa and get a little maintenance done to it. But I mean, it just turned out to be the fabric, but I was a little worried. So I thought, you know what, I need to practice on this one anyways. So let's go ahead and use that. So I have some thread sticking out because there's always thread sticking out, especially from when we did our handle top stitching. If your top stitching went down a little further and you could see the stitching here from your handles, you can just go ahead and take your seam ripper and pick those out. This brother is the CS6000i. I really like it. It just takes, it's not like it's difficult to use, it's just the buttons are in a different place. And I have to figure out where everything is. I can't just blindly punch buttons. I don't know where everything is on the Juki because there's a lot of special stitches and stuff, but for the most part I know where things are on it. So you don't want to have any of these threads sticking out because that will make it look a little less professional. So you want your bag to look as nice as you can get it. So I'm going to bring up my iron again. We're going to give this, we're at the last end of this, guys. We're almost done. Now, if you have one of those hams and stuff for doing clothes, that's really good. You can put it on there and give it a nice little iron, but I don't really need one. I do have a tabletop version that I can put along, you know, like the big iron board where it has that rounded part. I can always use that, but I just kind of wing it. What I want to do specifically is I want to see where my opening is. Okay, so here is my opening. I want to make sure when I tuck everything in that I want to have my lining and my outer tucked in, and I want to have it so that, see how it goes straight across and we aren't looking like this or anything like that. I want to have that, and I'm going to put a couple pins. We have these kind of pins. some magic pins that you can go ahead and iron over those. But these are glass head pins. I can iron over these too, so it's no big deal. I'm just gonna line that up. Now if you have one of those little smaller palm irons, that works good for this too. But I've got my big guy all heated up. I am putting this part underneath out of the way, so I'm only going to press, let me see, you guys can even see me. I only want to press this one layer. So all of this is tucked under. I'm just going to give this a nice steamy press just to set that seam so that I know it's going to stay there and look all nice and pretty, because we're going to top stitch around this and close it all up. I put a pin at the beginning and the end of the opening so I know exactly where it starts and finishes. And then however many you want in between. I've got 3, so I'm just going to put 1 in the center. And I have it all pinned nice and neat in there so that it looks good from both sides. Now you can do this without pressing it, but got the iron cord everywhere. See how mine just, the lining keeps wanting to roll up? So I want to make sure you do it from the bottom this way and keep the top out of the way, but I like to do it so that it's, I don't know, this is the way I always do it. From the outside, give it a nice little roll. If this were not reversible and you're pressing from the outside, that will force the outer fabric to go over the lining fabric, and that will keep the lining fabric from peeking out. But since this is reversible, we just want to do our best to make sure that we have just the seam at the top. Sometimes if you heat up your, especially with the wool mat, if you heat up the wool mat, you can lay this down and the heat will come through. And if you're not right on a seam, you can get it to roll nicely. Oh, happy birthday, happy birthday. Grandniece is going to be 6. What fabric are you going to use, Jody? Have I heard about the grandniece? Have we talked about her before? You know, if you haven't done this, Jody, with your sewing buddy next door, who I know you don't get to see much anymore, this would be a good project for her too. This is a little tedious part, and if you want to get all like, oh, I'm so great, I can skip it, and I do that sometimes, but maybe you are, you know, don't get me wrong, because you could be amazing, you could have no problem, but every time I skip it, I always end up having trouble. I always end up with something that rolls and pops up and I get to see it, and I have a little bit of a bloop here and there. Duck cotton, yes, you could do duck cotton, definitely. You can do, I mean, denim, it'd be pretty thick and heavy duty. Oh yeah, she's the one you said superheroes, right? Hi Lori, yep, you're gonna have to play catch up, we're almost done. We are putting our last final stitches and top stitching it. This finishes off our bag and we will be done. Well, let me just bring it in here. Oh, Wonder Woman, yeah. I have like turtles, and I've got some panels and stuff of fun, like superhero stuff. So here is where my pins are. Normally I would start right there, but based on the fact that it's on this side, I like to hide my beginning stitches along the edge where the seam is also. That way, because I have a hard time sometimes matching up my end stitch with my beginning stitch. So if I have it right here, again, it's not front and center where everyone can see it. I just kind of hide it off to the side. Hi, Gisela. We are almost finished, but you are more than welcome, of course, to watch the replay and catch everything. I think we had a little fun conversation in the beginning about art quilts and future projects. Now my first one, I'm going to do it 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I'm going to start just probably 1/2 an inch or so from the seam. Again, so I can hide it. I don't want to start right at the seam because it's a little hard. You're going to get notice. Have you hit the notification button and then choose all? Because not only you got to hit the button, but you got to tell them how many notifications you want them to send you. Okay, so 1/8 of an inch is going to allow me to close up that hole. So I'm going to hold my top thread. I'm going to put my needle down, whether by the button or the wheel. So I put my needle down, and I'm going to hold on tight to this top thread. I'm going to bring the needle up, and this is going to bring my bobbin thread up. So that means I call it pulling my threads to the top. And that means the inside of my bag isn't going to have all of this extra thread all into a big bird's nest looking like a mess. Yeah, I put down in the description box when I go live now so that everyone can see. Well, 1/8 of an inch is just, you figure out where your 1/4 inch is, Beverly, and go in between your 1/4 inch and the edge of it, and there you go, 1/8 of an inch. You can do just a 1/4 of an inch, but I'm a little concerned whether or not you'll be able to close that hole up. I don't backstitch here, but I backstitch when I meet back up. I'll trim all that extra thread off in a little bit. Make sure your handle is up before you start sewing, because if it's down here and you start sewing, you're going to sew over it and you're going to have all kinds of trouble. Make sure it's not tucked in your bag. Now we're going to be stitching, remember we left that little extra 1/4 of an inch plus where we had the 3/8 of an inch when we top stitched, sewed it and put it and flipped it and all that stuff. You can feel your handle. So there's a good, almost an inch there, about 3/4 of an inch. We're going to stitch over that twice and hold our handle in nice and sturdy. That's why I didn't worry about back stitching over it. If you're worried about your stitching showing, use matching thread in the top and the bobbin. So I have white. The white's going to show up on the blue on the inside, but I'm not too worried about it. There's a lot of white on the inside also. Just make sure it's all tucked in. Now if you have trouble with your lining rolling out, you can put some clips on it or pin it as you go and you won't have to worry about it. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I have to keep getting rid of the notifications I get for YouTube because they block the chat and I can't see what you guys are asking. Yeah, my kids can't remember what Saturday I do, so no one bothers me on Saturday now. They're like, I don't know if you're live, so I just won't bother you on a Saturday. I'm like, okay. Put my phone on Do Not Disturb because of those darn unknown callers. If they call during a live, they'll bump us off. My needle just got stuck right in the middle of the seam, so I'm just gonna kind of gently hold this firmly in the back and help guide it through because it went right in that seam and got stuck. You see, as we're going round and round, again, if you don't have that free arm, you would have to just sew from the inside of your bag. I'm going to clip off my threads. I don't want to stitch over those at all. Make sure everything looks good on the inside. Again, keep my handle up out of the way. I'm rolling my lining down. If your lining peeks out, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to call me Beverly? Okay. Thank you so much, Giselle. I appreciate that. I try to make sure that the people that are experienced, they can just hang out in the chat and have a good time. But you never know when they're going to give me a tip or I'm going to give them a tip. And then for the beginners, we want to make sure that they know what's going on. I know what it felt like to be lost in the beginning and not be able to find the answers, and my project's ruined. I spent money on the fabric. I could have bought like hot dogs for the kids or something, but I spent it on fabric and blah, blah, blah. I just always felt so guilty when my projects didn't turn out right, and then they ended up in a drawer. When I get back around, I'm going to do my best and go slow to line up. Go 3 or 4 stitches over where I started, then I'll back stitch a few stitches. Now, I've been doing this a lot, so what I do is I just lift the needle up and I move it over, and then I stitch a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch from the edge, wherever you want to put it. I can go from the top edge or I can go from my line, but if you're really new to sewing, you want to go ahead and take it off, break your thread, trim off your little ends, because just by moving it over, it keeps me from having to restart my fabric and all of that stuff, restart my thread I mean, and have to do that all over again. So now I'm going to decide where I want to put it. I think I'm about a 1/2 inch down from the top, so that's going to be fine for me. Again, I'm going to bring my thread to the top, because I know what messes I always get. Oh, I'm glad you're learning a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kathy. I'm glad you're learning a lot. We want to make sure everyone is comfortable, and I'm just going to do it around again just like I did the last time. Now I don't have to worry about the lining. Nothing is going to move. I just had everything nice and flat. I mean, my lining could roll up from the bottom, but I don't have to worry about the top. Now I can just cruise around, go as slow as you need to. If you want to put it down to putt-putt speed as a very beginner, because you can't control it, you can just go. You know what? You are in your own room. None of us are there with you, and none of us would tease you anyways. But if you have to go this slow to have control, now when I first started sewing, I did. But then it didn't take me long to find a need for speed. So then when you get a little better, if you have the regulator, you can go to the medium or just press it a little bit harder with your foot on the foot pedal. Then you can go a little faster. So maybe you're only going to do medium. Maybe you've been sewing for 20 years and medium is the best speed for you. It's okay. You don't have to go fast. Now I'm going over the handles again. I can hear the clunk clunk. I don't know if you can hear that. That means I'm going through 6 layers of fabric, 4 for the handle and 2 for the bag. That gives me that extra strength of holding my handle in, so that if I have something heavy, my handle's not just going to rip out. And then when you feel super comfortable or you're totally crazy, you can go super speed. This is really good if you're making them for the class, or for you're going to sell them at a craft fair or on Etsy or whatever. And you only have an hour and you need to make 10 bags. If you chain piece them and go really quick, you can probably get a bunch done. I don't know about all 10, I'm just kind of, that's a round number. I'm going to trim my threads, because if you sew over them, they are hard to trim off afterwards. I just love how much you guys in the chats are always so helpful. Everyone's got tips and tricks. We all do things a little bit differently based on our experience, and I love that everyone is willing to share. I gotta go slow and line it up. There's that darn needle. The wrong button. Oh, I think this machine sews on its own without the foot pedal. Huh, I didn't notice that. Now you can trim it off. I want to show you guys something that I found out about this sewing machine that I didn't know when I first started sewing today, that it might help you if you have this machine or a different one. But that's it. Our bag is done. So let's move everything out of the way. Now I take it and I give it a, makes everything slide down. So here is our bag. We've got our corners are out. I never get them 100% perfect because you have that little bit of fabric in there, but they look pretty good to me. See, that looks nice. And then we have our one side, so this is the way it looks here. Everything's right side up. I got the two different handles for fun quirkiness because kids like to be silly. Unless your kid likes everything perfect, then my machine, yeah, it has that stop button so you don't have to use the foot pedal. I think so. Yeah. Well, now it's mad at me. I gave it an error. Thank you, Gisela. Oh, we don't mind if you spell totally wrong. We don't mind. So then when I turn it the other way, so maybe my corners aren't going to pop out perfectly here, but if I just put my finger in there, it works good. And then some people you could take your seam ripper and just gently pull out any extra fabric. But this bag, if it's for your kids, it's probably going to get turned inside out, back and forth. That's all the way around. Oh, okay, yeah. Start on slow speed. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at the arrow and it has the little braille button for there, and I'm like, hey, my other brother had that, and the Juki has that, and that means you can sew. Does the Juki have that? Yeah, that means you can sew without your foot pedal. And there's my reverse. I've got threads all over that I have to just take off. You can take this. Well, you can put this on your shoulder. See? It fits me. How about my shoulder? It's a little bit of an awkward video, you know, picture. Hey. So I think this looks really good. You could put your projects in it if you just want to take it and run it somewhere. I'm glad we could keep you company. Thank you, Leslie. I do have a lot of chitter chatter, huh? All right, so let me show you what this machine has that I didn't realize, and I was like, oh. Okay, so I went to put my spool of thread on. So it has the little silver thing, right? And I'm looking all over, is there an extra one? Because this one is only like 3/4 of an inch tall. My spool of thread won't stay on it. I'm struggling. It's like blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hey, wait, you know what? Check this. It comes up. You can go ahead and pull this up. I'm sure it's in the manual, and I'm sure anyone who has this machine knows, but I didn't know that. So you can put it down to store it so it doesn't break off. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate all the love and the good comments you guys leave. I appreciate that you watch the videos and hang out with me. Whether even those of you that have been watching, those of you that have been watching the miter square one that are actually knitting the miter square blanket, I recorded all of the videos yesterday on Friday. I spent all day from, I don't know, I think I spent like 7 or 8 hours just making videos. So once I get them edited, I'm just going to start popping them up. So you'll get one video a day sometime in the next week or two. I have them all done from that first square that you already saw all the way through weaving in the ends. It's just going to take me time. I will edit them and upload them as I go. You guys aren't going to have to wait for any specific time. So for those of you that want to do them, they'll be there. Yeah, Carol, I thought that was the greatest thing. I was really upset because I've been having trouble with these spools on my Juki because trim that thread because it goes on my Juki. I know I've talked about it before, but it goes on my Juki this way because the thread has to come over the top. So this part goes to the end, right? And then I have just this little bit to hold on with the cap, but the cap is the spool, the pin or whatever you call it is right there, so it doesn't stay on very well. So I've had to switch from my large spool cap down to the small one to be able to use these. So that was very frustrating. I don't know if it's the new way that the Essential Threads are doing it, because they have, you know, they have the little lock thing on the bottom so that you can, you know, you wrap your thread around it. You put your thread across the bottom. And then you put your little thing in and it keeps it from coming unwound. And I love that feature and all, but it just doesn't sit right on my Juki. But thankfully, yeah, Becky, I wanted to get them done. I had to knit one square twice. My squares came out a little bit wonky, but I talk about it in the video. They'll end up working their way out when you make them, because some of them are a little bit tighter on tension and some are looser. I was sitting here. Yeah, I'm going to have to get a thread stand. That's what I was thinking, Carol. I'm going to have to get a thread stand. I was sitting and knitting on the table, leaning across it like this, so my tension was bad. But yep, this is as far as I got. But I've been wanting to knit on this with my sweater and the socks and alternate them through. But I can't knit on it until, you know, I show you guys the videos on how to do them. So those will be coming up in the next week. Once you see the first one come up, they should all start coming up pretty quickly. You're very welcome. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Does anyone have... Yes, you have to unplug the foot pedal. Yes, I just got stuck on the E thing. I guess I tried to get from... I had the error and I tried to get back, but it wouldn't let me, so I just turned the machine off and on and it fixed it. You know what these are good for too? If you want to do like fancy Christmas stockings at Christmas in the living room for the kids. But I found out about this trick when my kids were older and it didn't matter anymore. You can make them a little small Christmas bag like this with some nice fun Christmas fabric or just fabric that they love. And then you can hang this on the foot of their bed when they're sleeping on Christmas Eve. And when they wake up in the morning, whatever's in this bag, they stay in their bed, or they all go into the same children's room and they let mom and dad sleep. They're not allowed to get up until 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, whatever your rules are. But in this bag, maybe there's something horrible for them, like a Pop-Tart, and you can give them some type of maybe if you trust them, they can have a juice box. Otherwise, they can have, for the little ones, they can have a small toys in it or something. Like this is what they're allowed to play with on Christmas morning while they're waiting to open up their presents from Santa, and that allows them to have something to do and you get to sleep. So if you wrap what's in here, hang it from the foot of their bed or from the inside of their doorknob or the outside of the door even, or however works for your family, then maybe you'll be able to sleep a little bit on Christmas Eve. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You all said you did, so thank you so much. For those watching on the replay, thank you guys for coming back and watching it later. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments. I check comments every day. I try to answer the questions right away, and then I answer the comments a few times a week when I have time. You guys have been leaving some wonderful comments, and a lot of them, so it takes me a little bit of time to get through all of them. I do love the quirkiness of the two separate handles, but again, you can do it this way if it works better for you. Is everybody good? Bye everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope you have warm weather, a little bit of rain, and no snow. Bye.